Shalom Aleichem and a good morning. Chazde HaShem. Shalom Aleichem to the beautiful, wonderful Chevra online. Baruch HaShem, thank you for your messages. And may we all go from strength to strength. And Chazde HaShem to the wonderful, beautiful people in person who have turned up. And Mamish, Be'ezras HaShem, everything that we are doing should help us, help our nation in wonderful, healthy, holy ways. Chazde HaShem to remind us, Da'at Tachton Chizoni and Penimi. Da'at Tachton Chizoni and Penimi. To take a moment, Da'at Tachton Chizoni and spatial awareness, just become aware of the space that we are in, the people that we are with, just to take note of the colors and the textures, something incredibly important, hopefully to remind ourselves of. And halacha l'maisa, that we kiss the mezuzah, sharing the fact that we have moved from one space to another space. Da'at Tachton Chizoni. Something so small, for so many people, abyssal, unusual, yet something incredibly powerful. Very, very, very powerful. It's very healing. And then there's Da'at Tachton Penimi. Remember, change and transitioning. Change is Da'at Tachton Chizoni. Transitioning is what's going on inside. Where was I half an hour ago? Where was I an hour ago? Where was I 2 hours ago? And where am I right now? Having the availability to cultivate the ability to be present, to take note as I shift from one space to another space, and to take note of where I am in that process. Change, we do very easily. Transitioning is not always natural. We have to catch up. We have to learn the ability to process. Baruch HaShem. And even just speaking about it, just to feel how you are physically positioned right now. And we don't have to go quiet. We don't have to close our eyes. Don't have to go into any meditative state. Sometimes, as Rabbi Singer would say, it's worse because then you just limit your meditation to a meditative practice and you can't live it. So just by speaking about it in real time, just look around, I'm here. I can carry on speaking. I can carry on doing what I'm doing. Everything's okay. And just to see, to hear, to feel, become embodied in the moment. And then to take note, what's going on inside of my body right now. So I've just had a coffee. I'm feeling that. I'm tasting the coffee. And emotionally, physiologically, I'm present. I'm here. Baruch HaShem, good temperature. Not too hot, not too cool. And my emotions, I feel a buzz, an excitement. I felt over the last number of months an excitement. That's still with me right now. That's what comes up in the present moment. To feel that excitement, that's what's going on. And obviously it's because we're here and doing this as well, that it's obvious to me that that's connected, because I like to share and I like to listen. So that brings an excitement. What else is going on? I've got a very busy day ahead. So I'm having, that's a hirhur actually. I've got hirhurim. I'm hearing, internal dialogue that's just quiet voices whispering. Very, very busy day ahead. So that's with me as well. And that's all happening right now as I'm talking to you. And to have the ability, change and transitioning. Good morning. Change and transitioning. Again, taking note where I was and then coming into a space and recognizing that from moment to moment, you are always in the most perfect place. You are always at the most perfect time. And you are always with the most perfect people around you for your avodah right now in the present moment. And that's something very important to recognize. And we've used these words before. Your incarnation is your curriculum. Your incarnation is your curriculum. So right now, what's my tafkid? Right now, what's my yud? This is how you are relating to me, how I'm relating to you, how I'm trying to be in a state of das and share words. That's my tafkid right now. That's your tafkid right now. And then there's a whole world outside of these doors. And there's a whole world of Eretz Yisrael. There's a whole world of different lands and different peoples. And everybody, they're doing exactly what they need to be doing. And the more conscious they are, and the more aware they are, obviously that's going to hopefully add to their tikkun, Be'ezras HaShem Yisbarach, in a good, healthy, wholesome, integrated way. Good morning. You saw that? He came in, change and transitioning. Baruch HaShem. So it's a very, very, very powerful reality. Da'at Tachton Chizoni, Da'at Tachton Penimi. And the Metzius is, just with this alone, your life changes. Just with this alone, your life changes. But then we have Das, Hishtavus. Hishtavus is the availability, after we've developed some sort of mastery over Da'at Tachton Chizoni and Penimi, I could be aware of what space I occupy. I could be aware of that which is going on inside of me. My physical sensations, my feelings, my thoughts, I can observe them. Then we shift into, which is another darga in Avodas Hashem, from Da'at Tachton to Das. Shavisi HaShem lenegdi tamid, having the ability to hold a space where you could suspend judgment. Hachna havdala hamtaka. Hachna havdala. I can pull away from my nefesh. I can pull away from my nefesh, and I'm not just observing what's going on in my body. I'm not just observing what's going on around me. I can actually suspend judgment. So, for example, we mentioned this, the nakuda of what? The nakuda of having the ability to receive something, and it's neither good or bad, right or wrong. It's all the same to me. It's all the same. It's the nakuda of das, hishtavus. Hishtavus is that I can suspend judgment, and it is what it is. This is the next darga, which again takes mastery. We've dipped into a little bit. We've sprinkled a little bit of wisdom teachings on this idea. And for sure, Da'at Tachton Chizoni and Penimi is found more in The Journey Begins, and then Awakening is more the reality of Das. And as I mentioned time and time again, because we do not want to fool anyone. We don't want to fool ourselves. We don't want to fool anybody. That sometimes we can share words that are further ahead. We could share wisdom teachings that are further ahead than where we are in our experience. And we said that. We said that where we can potentially be right now is for sure in The Journey Begins. In The Journey Begins, it could be very real for us experientially that I'm aware, look at that, I can now do Da'at Tachton Chizoni and Penimi. Wow, I can do that comfortably. I could walk into a space, I could stop for a moment, and I could look around, and I could listen, I could smell, I could feel my body. Da'at Tachton Chizoni, we may now be very used to and very ragil to. There's a number of chevra, I mentioned to you, there's a chevra in America who have been watching with their popcorn. They've been watching Yoshua Gerzi do his little show. And they now have a little piece of paper. They walk around with a little piece of paper. And any space that they go into, they remember Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, because I told them the story of Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. And at the door, they stop, take out the piece of paper. Hi, I am here, change and transition. That's what it writes. I'm here, change and transition. And they stop, they kiss the mezuzah, and it's revolutionized their way of living.
What was the story?
Which story? That Reb Shlomo Zalman was very, very accurate in change and transitioning. When he would walk into his house, when he would walk in, he would always stop, brush himself down. There's a famous story with his wife, but his son told me that he would do it, that's something that they witnessed always. Any room that they went into, he would stop for a minute, and then walk in. And then walk in. He tried to do this as much as he could. And it changes us. It changes us. So this nakuda is something very real, and we can develop a mastery. Da'at Tachton Chizoni is very available. Da'at Tachton Penimi. So a number of chevra, Baruch HaShem, before davening or in the morning, they do a habata. They're comfortable in doing a habata now, and they're doing a habata. And now we are in this world of added material, really connected more to The Journey Begins. So they're listening to these talks, and they're just playing and experimenting and experiencing with the targilim that we are playing with right now. Chazde Hashem. In regards to awakening, so they're listening to awakening, they're listening and they're reading through awakening, but they will tell you, we're not there just yet. We're understanding the concepts, yet we've still got a little of work to do. But they'll get there. So remember the honesty of where you are in your experience in context to the wisdom teachings that we are learning. There should be a shaykhus. Because sometimes what happens is that we could run ahead and we think we're further ahead than we are, and then we can fall. And then we have this expectation, oh, I'm not where I thought I was. Well, yeah, duh. So there has to be a relationship, and we're trying to speak to that. We're trying to speak to that in real time. That there's these texts, we're sharing these wisdom teachings, and you have to do an ecology check. Where am I in context to these wisdom teachings? And as you've heard from me time and time again, and I heard from my teachers, let these wisdom teachings wash over your head. Let them wash over like fresh water on your face. Just let it wash. You don't try to hold on. You wash your face with fresh good water. You don't try to hold on to all the water. No, it goes. Enjoy it. It's hot. Take it seriously, but not too seriously where it becomes intense in an unhealthy way. Very, very, very important. And there should be simcha, Be'ezras Hashem, so much simcha, and we should feel good, and we should be able to say at the end of the day, today was good, Chazde Hashem, look what I did this and this and this and this. Everybody is rich. Ezehu Ashir, everybody is Ashir. Because when you realize that you've accomplished so much, every single day you're accomplishing so much, getting up in the morning, washing your hands, getting your clothes on, washing your face, and doing whatever you're doing in the house. Everybody's doing so much. And if we would stop and celebrate it, even change and transitioning with activities to activities, you'll go to bed at night. Whoa, how did I get so much done today? Wow. How did I get so much done yesterday? Everyone's doing so much. I haven't met many people who can't go to sleep at night and say they've done a lot of things. And sometimes the hero will come up, I lazed around here. So turn that person rested. So turns out, Baruch Hashem, you relaxed. Baruch Hashem, you did what you needed to do. You can turn, again, everything around. As the Pilsner Rav would say, success breeds success. Failure doesn't breed success. Find your footing on something successful and then grow from it. So Be'ezras Hashem. So change and transitioning, we're here. Chazde Hashem. Thank you to the Bara Olam that we can do this. Thank you to the Bara Olam. Thank you Hashem that we're here together. And we should be together ba'achdus. And we're speaking real conversations how to get there. Again, I laugh because people are bothered about Achdus when there's a war. If there's no war, they don't care about Achdus. It's like a funny thing. Tisha B'Av, people are bothered about Achdus. Tisha B'Av, it's like coming to Tisha B'Av. After that, okay, the Nakuda is that we only have a symptom of a war because of our state. It's like not the other way around. Yes, there's prophecies, but how those prophecies manifest, I promise you they can manifest differently. They can manifest differently. And what we want is very, very practically, very pragmatically to build a pathway and architecture, actually how to achieve better interpersonal relationships. And it's not difficult. People just don't speak about it. There's always something more important. Politics is more important, or this is more important, or that's more important. And hopefully, especially in our Daladamos, Al Beis HaMedrash, all of that is junk. Sitra Achra. The Sitra Achra is on its last leg. It's throwing everything at us. What's important? My well-being is important. Your well-being is important. Our physical health, mental health, our spiritual connection to divine intelligence is important. Our ability to heal is important. And even in that, not to get lost in the darkness. Sometimes people celebrate the darkness more than coming out of the darkness and meeting the light. The authenticity, I have to be authentic, I'm so broken. Okay, now what's next? Let's fix. Let's heal. And it's true to say there's that male-female energy that we want to validate a person where they are, but we as well want to, come on, let's move up, into the light. We can't just celebrate the darkness. We need to pick ourselves up and we need to move forward. And right now, obviously, it's very very special opportunities. But Be'ezras Hashem, to build an architecture where you yourself can understand yourself and you yourself can relate to others. And remember something fundamental. Everybody's relating to their own story. And you want to be the vehicle to give space, to allow that energy behind the story to be expressed. And typically when that energy is expressed, a person moves from to be seen, to be heard. And when we do habata, when we're practicing habata, when we're asking the questions, Ma'ani margish b'gufani, Ma'ani margish, what feelings am I feeling in my body, and asking and observing non-judgmentally, what emotions am I experiencing now, and asking a non-judgmental observation and my thoughts, I'm seeing and hearing myself. I should gift myself to be seen and heard by myself. My das is seeing my nefesh and hearing my nefesh. And with that we feel better, we feel different. And then we can learn to adjust our seeing and receive the loving messages of the neshama. So, yes, somebody may turn around and say, this sounds very esoteric. But either we believe Chazal or we don't believe Chazal. Either we believe Tanakh or we don't believe Tanakh. Are we going to once again experience Nevuah? Are we once again going to experience what we call Ruach HaKodesh? Is this true? Is this not true? So I remember I had a conversation, a Talmud from a more of the modern Orthodox camp, very academic, very, very academic. And it's true to say that we don't know the full definition of what that will be perceived at. The Nakuda, though, is that for him, after a conversation, he realized just very simple questions. I'm just asking very basic questions, very basic fundamental questions. He doesn't believe in Nevuah and he doesn't believe in Ruach HaKodesh because it's not academic, it's not understandable, it's not rational. And he realized that's kfirah. He realized he's so locked in that you have to understand everything. And I think those people who know me, I try to be very rational and I try to be very logical and things should sequentially fit. There are times though, in a reality of the reality we live in, that things don't fit and things don't make sense yet. They're unintegrated. And that's part of it. And it took him a lot of time to let go of that. And he did tshuva, and he's still very rational. He hasn't changed on the outside at all. On the inside, though, he can come to realize as he's reading Tanakh, that's not a story in the past that has been left in the past. This is a story that's going to occur now. And there's several layers of shifts. So obviously, for a lot of people, more than Torah and mitzvahs, nationalism is a lot more attractive. Nationalism is a lot more attractive. Why is nationalism a lot more attractive than Torah and mitzvahs? I get it, don't get me wrong, I get it. When you have something to hold on to, an army, when you could hold on, there's an army, this is Judaism. There's a Medinat Yisrael, this is Judaism. And I get that, you've got something to hold on to, I get that. So for a lot of people, they get that far more than they get good old-fashioned Torah mitzvahs. Good old-fashioned Torah mitzvahs. And it's not easy. Again, it's not easy. But then you have another chevra that they've done the same thing with Torah. It's only Torah mitzvahs, Why? Because we're all relating to stories and we all want to feel safe, secure and certain. We want things to fit. We want things to work together. And tachlis, at the end of the day, we have words on pages. And those words on pages have definitions. What those definitions are, that's already a conversation. Because we can use terms which have halachic ramifications, and sometimes the halachic ramification, if you're going to use that term, can't just be isolated in this particular little daladamos. If you're going to use this term, it has to express everywhere. But again, we get trapped sometimes, we get locked into. And this is something very much to think about. And if we don't chap this fundamental truth, then before we've even started, we are just on the perpetual mouse circle, the mouse runner, in the cage, the wheel, the mouse wheel of pain, of disconnect, of being disjointed. And it's not pleasant. But when we could realize that there's Sharash Neshama, and when we could realize that for the most lowest common denominator, people ask me, are you here because of Zionistic reasons? I don't really know what Zionism is. If you ask me, I can tell you, I've read through all of Kisvei Rav Kook. Is that Zionism? I don't know. I've read through all of Mei Marom. Is that Zionism? I don't know. I've read through the predecessors of Rav Kook. Is that Zionism? I don't know. Secular Zionism, is that it? Deima Banim Smecha? Don't get me started. I can quote you sources and I could look very knowledgeable. Made a siyum on this and I can tell you about it. What it is, I have no idea. But what I do know, to be in Eretz Yisrael. Lowest common denominator. Why is Yoshua Gerzi in Eretz Yisrael? Apart from my wife dragging me, it was my wife's chus, and my father growing up. But the fact is, lowest common denominator. I know in Tanakh, there's something called Eretz Yisrael, and it seems to be, according to every book that I read to do with Eretz Yisrael, Tanakh, Chazal, it's good to be here, so I'll try to be here. And how did I come to that decision after my wife very much wanted to come? Very simple. I went to speak to my teachers. I sat with the Biala Rebbe and I sat with the Pilsner Rav and I went to sit with my teachers and we did a Shikal Hadas. Does this fit? Does this not fit? And we went through the halachic process, or the process of gaining Eitzah from a Chacham. So I could make sure to the best of my ability, I wasn't just feeding into my dimyonis. And it takes energy and it takes time. A lot of people aren't prepared to do that. They'll rather feel safe, secure, and certain over feeling uncomfortable for a short amount of time or a long time to do what's actually correct and right and emes. And it's not easy. And it isn't easy. It's not poshet and it's not easy. And if we can ground ourselves, again, if we can learn to become more grounded and recognize, I'm relating to my narrative, I'm relating to my story, I'm relating to feel safe, secure, and certain, and if I can suspend that a little bit, and I could recognize, you have a story as well, let me listen. HaShem el racham v'chanon erech hapayim v'rav chesed v'emes. Rachamim is rechem. Let me listen. Let me learn, let me hear from you. Ezehu chacham, person who learns of people. K'pshutai, I listen. And then when you come back, so you believe this. You've come in and your life story led you to here, or your life story led you to here, or your life story, so you're here because of very Zionistic reasons. You're here because of halachic reasons. You're here because of this, or you're doing that because of this, or you're not in Israel because of this, or you're not in Israel because of that. I'm just using that as an example, but it's the story of our life. And when we could listen, it changes everything. That's how we start to actually attain what's labeled an achdus, whatever as well that means. So our avodah, centering and listening, the baseline story doesn't change. Gifting somebody to be seen and heard, to heal, to experience simcha, to experience joy. So important. Joy, so much joy. Even in these times, to experience so much joy, Be'ezras Hashem. Joy, simcha. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. The Sitra Achra wants to rip away our simcha right now. Wants to mamash rip away our simcha. And we have to fight. We have to fight for it. It takes healing, it takes groundedness, and it takes togetherness. We have to work together in our small groups to mechazek, to encourage, to support, to build. It's what's needed right now. Yes?
Doesn't the halacha around Eretz Yisrael tend to validate the safety, certainty, and security around relationships, money, and Torah? In terms of not being in Israel?
How? Say that.
It seems like like the halakha of Eretz Yisrael seems to really validate the safety, security, and certainty around relationships, money, and Torah.
So the sources, and I'm picking up on that. Torah comes and tells you, the words on the pages come and tell you about safety, security, and certainty. This is a truth. But then what about the actual person experiencing life? What happens if they're not yet ready to step into that? So halacha as well tells you about that. The Stei Chemed, the Chaya Adam, and other Mefarshim as well. So it's this prime conversation of words on pages in conjunction with human experience. And Torah is very, very big. Torah is broad, Torah is deep, Torah is high, and it takes into consideration the human experience. So you're not wrong. However, where's the person in the experience while reading those words? If they're living in England, America, South Africa, and they have good chinuch right now, and they have a good job right now, etc., etc., what does the halacha say? What does the Eitzah of Chachamim share? So you're not wrong. And I'm just adding another dimension. Where's the person in conjunction to the reality of the words in the pages? Does that give you something to think about?
I mean, I feel like the Torah is really encouraging people to validate where they're at. If you're not there yet, you can't do it in Israel, so it's okay to do it in...
Correct. And the halacha shares that. That's what exile is. We have many Maimah Chazal. Many Maimah Chazal. But the Torah is wise. The Torah is wise. Yes, sir.
You mentioned before that Cook thought that we can retrieve Nebuah and Ruach HaKodesh. That's a potential we should all be.
We should. It's not that we could. Rav Kook started a yeshiva, and this is what I heard. Again, this is very important. I didn't hear this in books. I heard this from students of Rav Kook himself. Not from a book on a page, I heard this from more than one student of Rav Kook himself. Yes, Merkaz Arav was the beginning, which was a failed experiment unfortunately, but Rav Kook himself, Merkaz Arav, was going to be the foundation of starting back the ability to retrieve and achieve Ruach HaKodesh leading to Nevuah. Yes?
Okay, so my question is, why now in our modern day do we need Nebuah? Why isn't Ruach HaKodesh enough to achieve it? Why do we have to go forward? What does Nebuah do for us at this point?
Brilliant question, and it's a shiur within itself. Why do we need Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah? And I think this is part of the critical challenge that we face. You are asking a fantastic question. And if I can say, because I know you, I'm going to say this, because you know I love you so much and respect you so much. I think it's the biggest failing of education that we're even asking this question. The biggest failing of education.
Holy intuition is very important to have.
And Nevuah.
But what's Nevuah?
So Nevuah as well. The availability for Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh, what I would suggest, Beregel Achas, I'm standing on one leg, on my left leg, Din, Gevura. So the Nakuda of Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, I would share with you in another language. It's the healthiest, most integrated way a human being should live. If a person has Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, it shows that they're fully healed, fully integrated, fully aligned, and more than that, whatever they receive in Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, done properly, will never ever lead to disintegration. It's always integration. So, for example, if a person has mental health issues, and Rabbi Nachman in Kitzur Likutei Maran, Kav Zayin, teaches us this, when there's a disconnect between the neshama and the nefesh, person is a chayla nefesh. Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah is the sign of incredible healing. Incredible healing, individual and national healing, apart from everything else that it does. Because when a person receives Nevuah, it's only going to be for the ta'eles in bringing more to a greater level of completion.
I always think of Nevuah being a prophecy, meaning there's somebody who's able to see something that is be helpful for Klal Yisrael as we do in the Tanakh. Nowadays, I don't know, Ruach HaKodesh understand we all need to be integrated with the Holiness Spirit to guide us in our daily lives, and everything should be driven by a holy intuition and inspiration. That I understand Ruach HaKodesh is very, very important for everyone to try to attain. But what does Nevuah do?
So you're understanding that Ruach HaKodesh makes more sense on a certain respect than Nevuah. And what does Nevuah do? So as again, Beregel Achaz, it shows a health. It shows a health, and Ruach HaKodesh isn't just about prophecies for the nation. There were millions of Nevi'im. But the Nevuah a person received, that personal kesher, the hearing that singular voice for that person led a person to greater integration and health.
Reaching levels of status of...
But aren't there halachot also? I think you may be asking a practical question like this.
Maybe I'm missing something, please.
There's some things about the Beit HaMikdash, I believe, that require prophecy in order to bring it back.
Correct, yes.
So
Yeah, halacha l'maisa as well, halacha l'maisa.
Like maybe the Sanhedrin or the Mashiach of the...
Halacha l'maisa, in order to reconstruct certain halachas, we need nevuah as well. This is correct. Halacha l'maisa, halacha l'maisa.
Questions like practically, what's...
Yeah, halacha l'maisa. Thank you. Thank you for picking up on that. Does that... Stage one, halacha l'maisa, we need nevuah in order halachically to reconstruct certain points of Yiddishkeit that have been dormant for thousands of years.
Okay, to reset the national way of thinking the way it should have been, we need nevuah.
Yes.
On that level.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, yeah. So, what we will do, let's go weiter. Thank you for your questions. And that Hagdama was a Hagdama. And now, Be'ezras Hashem, I just want to, I know it's like a number of minutes in already, but it is what it is. So this shir is dedicated to my first cousin, my beautiful first cousin who was nifta last year. It's his first yortzeit, Yaakov Binyamin ben Rachamim and Miriam. Be'ezras Hashem, you should have Aliyas Neshama. And as well, we have a very, very special birthday today, Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, Rabbi Nachman ben Simcha, Rabbi Nachman ben Fege, it's his birthday today. Be'ezras Hashem, it should be a Melitz Yashar, happy birthday. Please, Rabbi Nachman, give us brachas, give us plenty and plenty and plenty of brachas. Yes?
My anniversary today.
Oh, no, Baruch Hashem. Happy birthday, Mazel Tov. Anniversary. Mazel Tov. Anniversary, Mazel Tov. Bracha, Mazel and Hatzlacha, Chazda Hashem. And as well, Refuah Shalema to Mayan Bas Devaira Hadassah, and Refuah Shalema to Refival ben Toiba Fei, and Lilu Nishmas Reisha Devaira Bas Yaakov HaKohen, and Chaya Sarah Bas Yehuda Leib. And Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach as well, Hatzlacha, the Anshe, the Chevra in the Beis HaMedrash. And we, over the last couple of weeks, we've got Motzei Shabbos Chabura, Bracha v'Hatzlacha. We've got Sunday night Chabura, Bracha v'Hatzlacha. Sunday night Chabura, and the Chevra should have Bracha and Mamash Bracha and Hatzlacha b'chol inyonim. And as well Tuesday night Chabura, b'chol inyonim. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. Amen. So where are we up to in our text? So we left off, we were speaking about the guf. And the last paragraph we read about the guf, just to read it again because these words are so important to us, Be'ezras Hashem. Living through the body. As we awaken to the language of sensations, we rediscover the simplicity of presence. The world begins to feel alive again, vibrant, textured, immediate. The body becomes not just a vehicle of life, but a teacher of awareness. The next time you notice the warmth of the sunlight, the rhythm of your breath, or the gentle pressure of your feet on the ground, pause. That is life speaking to you in the most ancient language. The more you listen, the more you remember that you are not separate from life, you are life feeling itself. So to remember, Chevra, Baruch Hashem, we have a guf. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you for the guf, thank you for the guf working and all the different processes that are occurring. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shkayach, doing a good job, keep it going. And now we shift into the second mode. And as we mentioned, this mode is a very fascinating mode of emotions. The second mode of experience, emotions and feelings. The heart as a bridge between the body and the mind. Now, as I mentioned, before we go into this, the recognitions of emotions being a very grey area. What are actually emotions? How do they work? When we're working on Musa, when we speak about midas, what's a midah? What's a midah? We'll go in by saying that a midah is a combination of thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. A midah, so when we speak about ahava, it's true to say, people can say, ahava is an emotion, or yira is an emotion. We can say that the midas that we learn about are emotions, but really what we would say is that the midas that we learn are midos, midot. You have the difference? An emotion is singular in the language that we are speaking to. A midah is klali, including thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. Obviously, we always have to be aware that translating a word is not pashut. When people say to me, Kabbalah is mysticism. Well, hang on, actually. Kabbalah doesn't mean mysticism. Doesn't mean mysticism. There's a few different words. Kabbalah is to receive. It's this reality that we have Lashon HaKodesh, and each word means something particular. And translating it loses a big chunk of what it's actually meant to be. So when we speak about midah, a midah is a measurement. A midah is a measurement, that's it. It's a measurement. And when we're speaking about a measurement, it's a measurement of a particular midah, namely ava, love, yira, whatever the midah is. And we say in our language, and we have this in the Sfarim, that a midah is made up of hirhurim, regesh, and rikshay gufani. So as we go weiter now, so emotions. Okay. If physical sensations is the language of the body, then emotions is the language of the heart. Emotions bridge the physical and the mental. It belongs to both the body and the mind, yet transcends them both. We feel emotions as movements within us, waves of energies that rise, crest, and fall. They inform us, shape us, and if we learn to listen, they will guide us. They will guide us.
Emotions guide us?
They can guide us. All
to good things?
100%. 100% yes. What are emotions? The word emotion comes from the Latin emova, which actually, when we look at the Latin typically is quite accurate to our understanding in Lashon HaKodesh on at least one dimension of a particular word. So say, for example, we look at the word chet. People translate chet as sin. We don't like the common language of sin. The common language of sin doesn't fit with Lashon HaKodesh. Because if you look at the 14 or so definitions of what we label sin, every single one means off the plotted chart, off the plotted derech. So if you look at Aveira, if you look at Avon, bent, even Chet means miss the mark. So in Yiddishkeit, we don't believe in sin in the classical sense. I've done something wrong. We don't believe in that in the classical sense. What we believe in Yiddishkeit from a more sophisticated place, which really is pshat, is that there's one direction, teshuvah. I'm constantly wanting to return to achieve that goal. And sometimes I can go off. But in the grace of the Borei Olam, divine intelligence created a world where I can come back on. Isn't that swell? I can come back on. It's like, wow. When we move into the next dimension of what we call Olam Haba, if a person's going to experience the separation between the body and the soul prior to Olam Haba, they're not going to ask, did you do an Aveira? They're not going to be asked that. Because it's part of life to fall. Question is reintegration. And even the word I use, it's part of life to fall. Nefila does mean fall, but nefila means going off. It means going off. And as well, the beauty of Yiddishkeit. This is based on a Leshem. It was just the Leshem's Yortzeit. I gave a share, and I spoke about how in the Leshem speaks about that even within falling, we know there's something called Tshuva Mi'ava. That even, as Chazal tell us, it's wild. That when a person does Tshuva Mi'ava, even their Aveiros become now mitzvahs. Just think about that for a moment. Chalila v'chas, a person should do an Aveira. However, the chizuk and the chiyus, a person falls, you get back up. Eventually, when you do tshuva mi'ava, everything that was dark becomes now light. Think about that chizuk. Ein yush klal mamash. Like wild. Yiddishkeit, so healthy. The ideas, the wisdom teachings in Yiddishkeit, it really, if we take note of them, I read these words and it's like, oh, mamash, if there's by Raburi Stretner, there's a beautiful Torah. What's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha? And we've shared this before. The rasha gave up. The rasha gave up. The tzaddik never gives up. I'd be a rasha for sure. I would have given up. If I didn't have these Torahs, I'd be doing the biggest Averis in the world, left, right, and center. But I see these words on the page, and wow, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you give room to me to fall, but you expect me to give up? No, you don't expect me to give up. You expect me to get up. Radical responsibility. And you're holding me with love? And you're not going to, okay, radical responsibility, I'm going to get good patches. I own that. But after those patches, all you want is to love me and to hold me? Like, whoa, that's the HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we are working with here. That's the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is working with us. So loving, wants to hold us. So this nakuda of emotions, when we're using the Latin word to mean move, like the word chet in the original, missing the mark, moving. Emotions move, regesh, ruach, it moves. It's actually quite accurate. But that means if it's moving, it's not static. If it's moving, you're not there forever. So again, the word emotion comes from the Latin emover, to move out. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, just to make sure that we are aware of that. If anyone speaks Latin, Rab Adam, Rab Shalom Shachna,
What was the Latin?
Emover? No? Okay. An emotion then is movement. It is life energy in motion, stirring within the body. Every emotion represents a shift in the flow of our vital energy in response to what we perceive, think, or imagine. Experientially, so far that works. So again, every emotion represents a shift in the flow of our vital energy in response to what we perceive, think, or imagine. Because again, Chevra, we are relating to our interpretation of reality, not to reality itself. Unlike physical sensations, which are direct and raw, emotions blend bodily experience with mental interpretation. We feel the tightening in the chest, a quickening in the heartbeat, and then the mind names it fear. We feel warmth and openness, and we name it love and joy, love or joy. Emotions therefore serve as bridges where sensation meets meaning. Feelings, naming the movement. A feeling is what happens when we become aware of an emotion and give it a name. The emotion is an energy moving through us, the feeling of our conscious relationship to that energy. Emotions move unconsciously. Feelings arise when we bring awareness to them. So emotions move unconsciously. Feelings arise when we bring awareness to them. For example, the emotion of sadness may manifest as heaviness, lowered energy, or a lump in the throat. When we notice that, we may say, I feel sad. An emotion becomes a feeling as an experience witnessed by consciousness. So when we're speaking about emotions, it's not so poshut. It isn't so poshut. It's not so straightforward when we're not labeling it like this. Because tachlis is that it becomes a very grey area. Emotions for a lot of people are a very grey area. But when we can give our physical sensations the proper definition and have the proper conversation with the definition we've given it, and it actually fits, like it sits with a person. When we speak about emotions and we can give emotions a definition, and then it could sit with a person, and the same with our thinking. When we can give our thinking a definition and it could sit with a person, it actually resonates. That already is maturing our relationship with ourselves. And for so many people, you'll ask them what emotions are. I've done this thousands of times. You do it. Ask somebody what an emotion is. See what responses you get. I've found over the last 20-something years of asking people, what's an emotion? I don't typically get good responses. Typically, I get, an emotion is this. Oh, well, you're describing a word. Love, it's an emotion. You're describing a word. Is that an emotion? Try it. Try it. Again, the best tool that I found for the evolution of these wisdom teachings is for you to try it yourself. That's it. I do it. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to share with you wisdom teachings that I have found helpful, that I learned from my teachings, that I learned from my teachers. Now you go contemplate this. Read these words time and time again. Does it sit? Does it feel right? Does it give you now even a definition that you may not agree with? Maybe you'll read these words and you'll say, something's missing. That's okay. Now figure out what you think is missing. Contemplate, critically think. I feel something's missing. Okay, so what's missing? Let's have a conversation. Let's ask questions. What's missing? Maybe nothing's. Maybe you read this and it's like, whoa, this now has given me a definition of emotions. Wow, that brings a lot of clarity. Mamash, amazing. And again, I'm using the English word, physical sensations. I'm using the English word, emotions. But what I will share with you, I believe that once we make the step into Lashon HaKodesh, Regesh, you'll see throughout all the Sfarim, this is taken for granted. All the Sfarim that have a Mesorah, the Chachmei HaAvayda, this is taken for granted. This is something incredibly important to take into consideration.
So which aspect specifically is taken for granted?
Say that again?
Which specifically is taken for granted?
The definition. The definition that we've given here, that when we speak about in Tikkun Hamidos, in the world of Musa, number one, in the world of Musa, when we speak about any given midah, it's a midah, not an emotion, and people mix and match. Number two, when we're specifically speaking about regesh, an emotion, when it's belonging, another term used as Chazal from an older language is ruach. It's moving, it's something that's constantly moving. It's never static or still. Life is never static or still. Famous Rav Dessler. So it's the nakuda of recognizing we've given and we are giving a klal definition of physical sensations, emotions, and our thinking with an exercise. And what I'm suggesting is that when you actually now go back into the Musa Sfarim, taking this into consideration and being more precise about your language, don't translate a midah as an emotion. Maybe it's better to translate a midah as a virtue. Maybe that's a better translation. Maybe a character trait, that's a better translation. Or maybe, lo and behold, the best is maybe translate midah as midah. Once you've got a holding of this. Once we've got a holding, Lashon HaKodesh is beautiful. Lashon HaKodesh is wonderful. But we need to use language. We need to use language in order to break through the klipos of understanding. This is found in Sharas Yisrael, Shavuos Maimah Gimel. That the Rabbi Yisrael Miveletnik explains that we need language to break through the klipos, to get to something deeper, the pnimis of something. Even if it's a foreign language. So Lashon HaKodesh, it's English. So again, what we've just shared here, we're going to end here. What we've just shared here is that we are speaking about the body. From the body, we now shifted to the second mode of human experience of emotions, and we've given a definition. We've given, hopefully, a working practical, as in, you will check for yourself, but does it resonate with you? What are emotions? Naming the feeling, naming the emotions. And then we've got here, maybe we will, let's do, would anyone mind? We'll go a bit weiter, we'll go weiter.
I have 2 questions. And then,
please, yes.
I have 2 questions. So one has to do with chet. So the Rebbe mentioned that when chet means missing the mark or going off course, and tshuva is going back on course. And when one does tshuva me'ava, then then all that time that was spent and all the action that was spent in the state of missing, not being on the derech, then it all turns to light. So the question is, does it turn to light because there's a lesson learned, or is it something totally different?
It's a much bigger conversation.
Okay. Second question.
Very, very important question. Does it turn to light because a lesson was learned? Very, very big question. Yes.
The second question is, if we push an emotion under the rug, and it's not on the conscious mind, in other words, can we change an emotion? If there's an emotion, feel an emotion right now, and emotion is as we mentioned, it's a connection between thoughts and physical sensations. So if we change our thoughts away from the thought that's the combination of this emotion, can we change an emotion?
So let me just understand, let me just reflect and see and hear if I understand you correctly. Can you change an emotion? If we know that an emotion is a combination of thoughts and physical sensations, it's a bridge. If we change the thoughts and physical sensations, should that be able to change the feeling that a person is feeling in the moment? Does that make sense?
Yes.
The answer is, it takes mastery, but yes. So if a person, there's a story just about this Nakuda that I've shared over. There was a Yid in London who was really, really having a hard time, and he was learning architecture. And I spoke to Rabbi Singer, and this Yid spoke to Rabbi Singer, and Rabbi Singer gave over the oddest eitzah. It's like, really? And this is where you have to have like emunus chachamim, because I wanted to have eitzah, how this person can work on himself and feel better, even if it's going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I don't know. And Rabbi Singer said, tell this Yid to go into London. He asked me a couple of questions first. Based on my answers, he says, tell him to go into town, into London, and tell him to look at the old buildings from the 17th and 18th century, which you have to look up at, because eye height, a lot's changed over the last couple of hundred years. But if you look up, you could still see the beautiful ornaments of like 17th, 18th century buildings. And to spend a week doing this every single day, please tell him in the afternoon to go do this. Okay. As I said, listen, you heard what Zaidi said. I'm not making this stuff up. Tachlis, he says, emunus chachamim. He went and he came back the following week, and we spoke to Rabbi Singer. It was a Thursday evening, and the whole house was quiet, and he was sitting next to me. And he came back, we spoke to Rabbi Singer, and Rabbi Singer said, no, how are you feeling? He says, I don't know. He said, Rabbi, you're like a prophet. You're a Navi, you're a prophet. And he says, Yishla bracha and hatzlacha. And then he says, you can go. So this person went. And then I said, Zaidi, what did you do? He says, I'm not a prophet. Mistama, when I spoke to you, I got the sense that he's looking down. I got him to go out and look up. So Chazde Hashem, there's something called mind over matter, but there's something called matter over mind. And you could develop a mastery. You change your physiology, it will change your mind. And by the Biala Rebbe, this was really big. One of the first things, I took hundreds of people to the Biala Rebbe, and typically, so many times the Rebbe would ask, are you walking? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping well? Kapshutai. I remember once with my father, he won't mind me saying, he was having a little bit of a hard time. He went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to him, go walking with your wife every day. And my father and mother would go for a walk every day, get a little bit of a schwitz, and lo and behold, he'll feel better. So yes, there's mind over matter, and there's matter over mind. And you could think your way out at times, and you can act your way out at times. And the research is quite strong on this. So again, it takes a mastery. It's not poshut, it takes a mastery. There's other things you can do as well, where you can, which is more, so to speak, it's a different form of avodah, but you could bring in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we've quoted the Tehillim, that You can shine Hashem's light onto that regesh, onto that thought, emotion, and you can flood yourself with Hashem's love and light. It's another way of dealing with it, a little bit more advanced. Takes a little bit more of a mastery, but that's something realistic as well. So okay, let's do a little bit more as we have agreed on. So okay, Be'ezras Hashem, Tov. Spectrums of emotions. Human beings experience a vast range of emotions, often layered and interwoven. Below are some of the broad categories that the body's sensations that often accompany them. So now we're going to try and present some bodily sensations with emotions, with feelings we feel. And again, it's broad, it's general. So if the voice of cynicism and criticism comes up, you're welcome. It's okay, because we're already saying that you may have a different representation or experience of this. That's okay. So when we speak about love, gratitude and joy, sometimes we'll experience warmth, expansion in the chest, ease in the breath, a lightness. That's something which some people may comment. Sadness or grief, a heaviness, a sinking in the chest or a sinking in the chest or stomach, slower breathing. Fear or anxiety, a tightness, quickening pulse, shallow breath, restlessness. When we're speaking about anger or frustration, we can sometimes feel heat, tension in the jaw, the hands, or other places in the body, a strong forward energy. What about shame, embarrassment, contraction, warmth in the face, a desire to hide, which is not really a physical, maybe because I put that down because you may actually want to leave the room and go and hide. Or if we're speaking about peace and contentment, a softness, a steady breath, a grounded stillness. Each emotion carries information. None are inherently negative. They reveal where our attention, needs, and values reside. So they reveal where our attention is, our needs, and our value reside. When we resist or suppress emotions, the energy stays trapped in the body. When we meet it with awareness, it transforms into insight. So the nakuda that's expected of us is to recognize that emotions are moving. When we don't allow them through, the Chachmei of Avodah, the Chachmei Avodah have shared that they become trapped and suppressed inside, and this is no good for us. The functions of emotions. Emotions help us navigate life. They orientate us towards what nurtures us and away from. Is that read correctly? Emotions help us navigate life. They orientate us towards what nurtures us and away from what harms us. That's how it should be. It's how it should be in Tikkun HaMidos. Sometimes, unfortunately, people are so used to getting hurt, they'll actually go back to getting hurt because that's already what's usual to them, which is as well a big conversation point. Fear protects, anger defends, sadness releases, joy connects. When we listen to emotions as messengers, they guide us towards integrity and authenticity. The problem arises when emotions take over the mind, or when the mind suppresses the body's natural emotions. I love this sentence. I use this for months. The balance lies in feeling fully without being swept away. Feeling fully without being swept away. To feel consciously is to allow emotions to move, express, and release without clinging or resistance. I think this is good. This is good. Next week, Bli Neder will go into the practices. But let me just share where we're up to. We gave a Hagdama today. which I believe always the Hagdamas are important. Speaking around the information enriches the information. That's what came up today in my being to share with you, down from Shamayim into my Neshama. And we went through, I think part of that was a chazara of the material that we went into last week, adding today these new dimensions. And the one thing is that we can be healthier, better, more integrated, to live a fuller, happier, more joyous, loving, kind life. Kipshutai. Being a Merkava to Megala HaKodesh Baruch Hu more in the world. So Be'ezras Hashem Chevra, we are now going to break up into the groups and we're going to share. And Chevra Online, what did you hear today? What helped you? Take what works, Be'ezras Hashem. Gift yourself the ability to upgrade your life. You deserve it. We all deserve it. And Be'ezras Hashem Mamash, we should go from strength to strength. L'chaim, Tevim u'Shalom.